Here we go. Rock and roll. Ready? Good. Hi, I'm Karuna. I'm the founder and executive director of Mind Oasis. And with me today is my dear friend, Caitlin McIntosh. Caitlin, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
This is Caitlin's first time on Meditation Happy Hour, Tea, Talk, and Truth with Karuna. We will get through all three of those, no doubt. Tell us where in the world you are.
I am currently in Albuquerque, New Mexico, the land of enchantment, and it is gorgeous and springy and windy here.
Great. And you haven't always been in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Tell us a little bit about your life.
Yeah, so I just moved to Albuquerque in September to start studying full-time with Dr. Lad at the Ayurvedic Institute. And previously I was in Austin, Texas, and I was working as a creative director for Keller Williams. So it's I don't know, it seems like a lifetime ago, that job, but yeah, so.
Cool. And who's on your lap? For those who are watching, you'll be able to see there's this gorgeous, gorgeous kitty.
This is my kitty cat, Coca.
Oh, Coca is this beautiful white kitty with kind of brown ears and a little bit of tan on the nose, mostly white,
sky blue eyes.
And sky blue eyes. Very cool. So, we are hosting you on Mind Oasis. And the reason I bring this up early on in our interview is because what I'd love to hear you talk a little bit about is Ayurveda. Not everyone's familiar with Ayurveda, and maybe you can just sort of talk a little bit about what Ayurveda is and what it means to you and how you packed up your life to pursue the study of Ayurveda. So just take it away.
Okay. So Ayurveda, well, first we can kind of just break down what Ayurveda means, and from Sanskrit. And so Ayu means life, and then Veda means knowledge or science. And so it's the science, it's the knowledge of life. And so it is all encompassing. And so it touches every aspect of someone's life, from the environment, from where they live to what they eat, to relationships. Dr. Lad is always speaks of relationships and the health in relationships. And so I think sometimes we just know about it as the three doshas, which are vata, pitta, and kapha. But those are actually, it's like so much more than that. And it's so much more than the quiz. And if you do take a quiz, be careful, because sometimes you identify either as like your vitiated instead of what your like natural makeup is. So I guess I'll unpack that a little bit because it was a little bit coded. So the reason why I love or I was drawn to Ayurveda is that it's this, essentially, if you boil it all down, it's the study of the elements and how they manifest in your inner and outer worlds. And so that was, I think that from my previous meditation experiences was really intriguing, and then how to heal and to balance and harmonize the body. So you're harmonizing the inner and outer elements. And so those three doshas, dosha translates as fault, but they're actually this like protective mechanism, which I think is just so beautiful and sweet to think about in your body. So they're made up of the elements. So vata is made up of ether and air, and pitta is fire and water, and kapha is water and earth. And so we each have these unique makeups of these elements at the time of conception. And so there's no right or wrong way, but we just all have like our own like soup of these elements. And so that's what they call prakriti in Sanskrit. And so that's kind of where each individual wants to go back to their own prakriti. And so when life happens, and when the wind in Albuquerque is going, or you eat crunchy munchies late at night, and like your wind gets even more aggravated, then these the elements, like the grosser elements, actually they almost like give you these warning signs that something's off balance. And so that's how the doshas actually protect you from disease, because they get vitiated, and then you'll have symptoms of like dry skin or something. And so they actually protect the outer elements from going deeper into the body. And so they're like warning signs. And it's just so sweet that we have this like built-in protective mechanism in our bodies. And so then when the elements get aggravated, either through like your mind, which that happens a lot for me. So there's, so either through your mind, through your emotions. So in Ayurveda, they also say that raga is like the root of all disease, and raga can be translated as anger or just like emotions in general, or desire, like anger, desire, but and so that's like kind of the root. But so then when it either gets vitiated with your mind, with what you're eating, your lifestyle, with stress, with the outer environment, just like if it's really hot in the summer in Austin, Texas, and you're eating hot peppers, like your fire is going to go through the roof. And
Guilty
yeah.
is charged.
Yeah. So, like maybe not. But then like your body also might give you clues of like, oh, maybe I just need to, swim in some cool water, or, like take a little bit of a rest at the heat of the day. And so there's this natural intelligence of your body that comes through. So it's this, to me, it's a way to have this like living awareness of the inner and outer world. And so it like Ayurveda like calls you to be your own healer, and to really through awareness and this what Dr. Lag calls like the art of looking, to see without judgment and just to be, and that way you can what's happening, and then you can balance, and so that it's like all the knowledge is within you. And I think that's a really beautiful and like a nice reminder that we know.
Yeah. And right now, in addition to all of our normal stuff, we're sort of in this strange post-pandemic world with a very overtly overshared war going on in Ukraine. So there's this sort of global pressure in addition to everything else we have going on. It sounds like understanding our energetic makeup can help us then rest and restore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's like, if we like look at this inner and outer worlds, so it's like sometimes you can feel helpless, or like it's like, well, how are you in conflict in your own relationships, and how can you be? So it's like also a way just to, if you're seeing it in the outer world, then on some like there's an expression of like the macro is also the micro in Ayurveda, and in Eastern philosophy. So it's, we can look at our own relationships as well and see what is needed, and how we can restore and heal through our own individual relationships or in our communities. And so that's what comes to mind when I think of that. But yeah, even for like resting, it's like listening to your body and knowing what is needed if you're, and like how you can balance what you're seeing with the opposite.
Right. And then I'm assuming, simplistically speaking, that your inner world is anything that's happening within your body, and your outer world is the outer. But I'm also assuming there must be a relationship between the two. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, so I mean, like even like eating food, like there's a way that like the outer is coming in, and so there's this like expression of like food is consciousness. So food actually, when it breaks down, it actually turns into your consciousness. So it's like there is like a direct relationship of the inner. So once like the outer world is coming in through the doors of perception, through your eyes, ears, nose, mouth, skin. So when those elements are coming in through those doors of perception, then those get either digested or not digested in your body. And so there's a concept of Agni, which just means fire. So it's like your internal metabolism. So you can have, well, there's like, we have to memorize 40 Agnis, but there's like so many more than that. But then there's also just like a few, like, so your the Agni that's in your belly, and then there's also like Agni that's in your mind, and so that and in your heart, just to simplify it. And so then like how we're processing, how we're digesting, assimilating, and then absorbing the information in our mind, in our hearts, and in our bellies. How the strength and the health of your Agni actually helps you then process it. So if you have a low fire, then you can't process it. So then there's this like, I don't know, I think of like uncooked dough is just like in your body, and then it's like blocking like your cells' natural intelligence. And so then you can't process it. Or if you have like too much fire, then you just like blow everything out. And so everything is like roasted and toasted, as Dr. Ladd would say. And so then you're just like, how can you, so it's that idea of just balancing your Agni. So if you've ever tended a fire, you kind of know that how the elements play a role in the fire. So if there's too much wind, the fire goes out. If there's too much water, it gets dampened. If it's too hot and you're just throwing little tiny sticks in, it's gonna like incinerate it. And so you can kind of, for me, that's helpful to like know, if you have, if you're in the summertime and you're eating all the hot peppers, and it's just going to like incinerate everything. And so you might not be absorbing like the minerals or absorbing anything because it just gets totally burnt out. And so, yeah, so then like that relationship between the inner and outer, like they become one once they come inner, but then also then like what is, if you are really like inflamed and really have a lot of fire, then like that would affect your outer relationship. So it affects, it goes both ways, right? So it's also like that maintenance of relationship is like that relationships are the mirror to what's kind of happening on the inner side. So that's, if you don't know what's going on, you can kind of just like see in your relationships and how, and to kind of get a glance on the inward as well.
And then can you talk a little bit about the class itself? It's on June 5th, which is a Sunday, and it's a couple hours long. It feels like you're bringing like a lifetime of amazingness into 2 hours. So tell us what it's going to look like, how you're going to unpack this.
I know.
Besides slowing down time, you're going to have to use your magic powers to slow down time for sure.
Well, that will actually happen because something, like I was saying, what drew me in was the elements and how to balance them, and then having a really embodied experience of that. And so there will be meditation that will actually feel the elements in our bodies, feel like, just even observe like what, so there's this concept of the gunas, which means qualities. And so it's just really just like practical tool of like the art of noticing. And so you can notice through qualities, and there's 20 universal ones. So we'll do these kind of embodied practices so we know what it feels like in our body. Like, what does water feel like in our body? What does fire feel like? What does earth feel like? And so that it can be really integrated. And then so that's like one aspect of it. And then just like having Ayurveda is like, it's the vastness of it, and then there's also the simplicity. Like, if everyone just drank hot, I know you do this, Karina, but just drink hot water when you first wake up, it's like I feel like everyone in the world should just do that. Like it just warms like your insides. It wakes everyone up. It also nourishes and hydrates your whole body. It helps you eliminate in the first thing in the morning. And so it's just this like beautiful practice, and it's just drinking water, right? But warm water. And so there's this way that it can be like so vast and complicated, and then it's also simple. And then I also will get into a little bit of like Sankhya's philosophy, because that is just like the root of a lot of yogic philosophy is through Sankhya. And then also just so we can understand, through Kapila's perspective of how the journey from consciousness into matter. And so that kind of sets us up to understand the elements and how to work with them. And so that's one of the major philosophies that Ayurveda is seen through that lens of Sankhya.
Sankhya, Sankhya, was a person?
That's actually like the name of the philosophy. And so
Okay.
Sa means truth, and Ka means, oh God. It's like the truth of like the knowledge of truth or something to this. I'll get that right. But the Sa is truth. So yeah, that is, it's just like one of the like darshans or philosophies that Ayurveda pulls from. But Kapila is actually the who is credited for that philosophy. So yeah, it's
just
essentially
in case someone wants to look it up ahead of time. Do we know how Kapila is spelled? Is it?
Oh, you're asking me.
I tried not to, but I don't.
Okay,
see it
so it's Kapila.
Okay, Kapila. Awesome.
Kapila. Yeah.
Very cool. Good.
Yeah, so like a lot of yogic philosophy pulls from that. So I'll speak a little. I mean, it's super complex, but I'll just kind of orientate us so that we have, where this came from. So like Ayurveda is about a 10,000, 5,000-year-old science and wisdom that was remembered through the rishis. And so we'll just like talk about, the origins of it, so we can kind of understand the context and who the knowledge bearers were that, and we're also part of that.
Very cool. Very cool. And do people have to have a background, a yogic background of any sort, or?
No, I mean, it would totally be helpful if you did, but you don't have to. So we're going to kind of go super, we'll just start from the beginning and talk through it. So you just have to be human and have interest in it. But yeah, you don't need any prior knowledge. It will really be a way to tune in to your own knowledge. And so that's one of my goals, is to give you practical tools of how to know your body and how to know the outer world and inner world.
Very cool. And then just finally, before I ask you just a couple of wrap-up questions, I'm curious, you call them the 5 great elements. And I'm curious, I've never heard elements referred to necessarily as great before. And I'm super curious about it.
So it's in Sanskrit, it's Pancha Mahabhuts. And so they, you know what, I've never asked that question, but I just like, it totally resonated with me. I was like, yeah, of course the elements are great. You know what I mean? But it's, that's like in Sankhya's philosophy, that's like the term for them. And so that, I mean, to me, like my interpretation, because I don't actually have anyone else's on that question, is that these are like, they're kind of exalted because they're what is the physical makeup of everything. So you have the ton mantras, and sorry if this is too nerdy, I just get a little excited, which are the subtle forms of the elements. So that's sparsha, which is sound, shabda, which is sound, sparsha, which is touch. And so sound is associated with ether. Touch is associated with with air. Vision is associated with fire, taste is water, and smell is earth. And so it's that like interaction. So you have the subtle forms of how they come into the body. And yeah, so I mean, they're like the makeup of all life. And so it's like the subtlest, grossest form of matter is the elements. And then you have like the 10 mantras, which are even more subtle. But I think that's what it is, because they're from a Sankhya perspective, they're what make up all matter,
including us
and
the world around us.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. So the name of this masterclass is Intro to Ayurveda, Balancing the Outer and Inner Worlds Through the 5 Great Elements. We now know why they're the great elements, because that is what we are. Hello, people. With Caitlin. And it's going to actually be on Sunday, June 5th. And you can go to mindoasis.org. And if you go to the Learn tab, you will see Caitlin's face and the title to this wonderful course, and you can learn more. So it's not tea talk and truth with Karuna, unless we say, do you have any tea? I have coffee today, or water.
This is so un-Ayurvedic of me, and I cheated today, but it's this delicious Tulsi sparkling water. And
oh, fun.
It's so good, but sparkling water is like very un-Ayurvedic, but sometimes you can just enjoy.
It's what I drink all day long. And then, so that's your tea, is naughty sparkling water. And we talked, so we got that one checked off. So the last question for you is, what's your truth?
Oh, that's a big one. My truth, that's interesting. I'm stalling a little bit. I would say the silence in my own heart.
Lovely. Thank you. Thank you, Caitlin, for being my guest today.
Thank you for having me. This was so much fun.
You bet. So Caitlin is our our intro to Ayurveda, balancing the outer and inner worlds through the 5 great elements teacher. And she'll be sharing that on Sunday, the 5th of June. You can go to mindoasis.org to the Learn tab and learn more. Caitlin, thank you for being with us.
Thank you. It was such a pleasure. I can't wait to see you all on June 5th.